3 days in taking ivermectin and their symptoms are gone. And other times it's like going and finding a like a mind-body kind of approach or treatment protocol, like lightning process or unlearnyourpain.com or EFT or medical hypnosis or NLP. Sometimes those things, or positive visualization and gratitude practices. Sometimes those things get rid of all the symptoms, like symptoms that you just thought you would be with forever. And sometimes it's some other medication or supplement. Sometimes I've seen it, like one patient, it was Motrin, another patient, it was, antihistamines. Some patients, it was Mravrock, right? So Mravrock, I hesitate to use it up front because there's so many things that work just as well in a lot of people, but for some people, other things don't work, and Mravrock does work. So that's always kind of at the end, like if we run out of options, Mravrock has a long list of possible side effects, which I haven't ever seen anyone develop, but it also has a high price tag, right? So we can oftentimes help people get it for free if they have insurance. There's like a low cost or free program from the manufacturer for people with insurance, but their insurance doesn't cover it. So that usually covers like 3 months maybe. And that is enough for some people, but most people need like 6 months, and it's about $5,000 a month. So that, it's a big expense, and it's also kind of a question mark in terms of side effects. And you really want to get the NCell DX testing done first, which is itself $500. So, it's a bit expensive, and it's also, riskier, I think. I don't think it's particularly risky, but it's certainly riskier than ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine and low-dose steroids and some of the other things that you should definitely try first. So anyway, this is kind of like one of those cold opens where I'm not really sure where I'm going. But basically what I'm trying to put forward is that we have something for everyone, right? At pro.longcovidreset.com, which I highly recommend to everyone register for. So at the end of this, we're going to stop around 20 minutes and transfer over there. So, the first 20 minutes streams to Twitter and other platforms, Rumble and everywhere. And then after that, we go to pro.longcovidreset.com and we just stream for our subscribers there. The first month is free when you register. And if you can't afford it, like, we have no problem. We'll just comp the rest of it, right, for the rest of your life if you need it. So just let us know if you can't afford the subscription fee, or if you want to, donate some amount of money less than the subscription fee. That's cool too. We would certainly love that. If you can, buy me a coffee kind of thing. So whatever you can afford, and if you can't afford it, or if you just, not really sure it's worth it, but you want us to comp you the subscription, that's fine. And just let us know. Just send us an email and we'll turn off the charge at the end of the first month. So if you do find this valuable, please like, subscribe, and share the content. And please consider signing up at pro.longcovidreset.com so that you can watch the full video that's streaming right now and other videos that we stream. We stream like 5 or 6 videos a week on a bunch of different topics. All right, so without further ado, this is a Q&A episode, so I'm going to start answering questions. Does aspirin work the same as nattokinase? I can't take them both together, right? Okay, so you can take them together. They don't work the same. So aspirin is a platelet inhibitor, so it inhibits platelets from aggregating. So there are a bunch of different ingredients required to create a clot. Platelets are one of the ingredients. Fibrin is another ingredient. There's a whole clotting cascade of chemicals that end up, leading to fibrin kind of combining and creating a clot. The spike protein can trigger this clotting cascade and bring it all together and activate the platelets and create a clot. And it also causes misfolding of proteins, kind of like amyloid, essentially. So there are amyloid fibrin clots that the spike protein creates. So nattokinase and quantum NAC also, what they do is they help break up these specific microclots, the specific kind of clot that's created by the spike protein or triggered by the spike protein. And they both also break up the spike protein itself, and they get the spike protein to detach from where it's like combined, not only inside the clots, but also inside your other tissues inside your body. And aspirin just works on the platelet portion of this process. So nattokinase doesn't directly work on the platelets, and neither does quantum NAC. Another platelet inhibitor, which works on in a different way on platelets to inhibit them from getting clumpy and sticking together and joining together with the clot would be Plavix, which we sometimes use. So all the different things that are recommended work in slightly different ways, and aspirin and natto are not working on the same exact thing. Aspirin, I would recommend enteric-coated aspirin, so it passes through your stomach and has less of a impact on the gastric lining in your stomach. Nattokinase does not cause any kind of stomach issues the way aspirin often does, so people don't get stomach ulcers from nattokinase. In fact, it seems to actually improve blood flow to the stomach instead of causing any issues like inflammation. So aspirin works differently, and you can take them together. Generally speaking, if somebody has long COVID, they are in a hypercoagulable state. And this is something that people have hesitated to like treat as hypercoagulable, but it's certainly there. And I'm very confident if I look at a patient and they basically meet like a clinical criteria for diagnosing long COVID or vaccine injury, like it's pretty obvious in 99% of cases that this is a very typical presentation of long COVID or vaccine injury, right? If that's the case, I'm like almost 100% sure that you have microclots. I have, in fact, never seen anyone who I diagnosed with long COVID or vaccine injury who did not have microclots when I tested them. And this is exactly what Risha Pretorius and Beata Jaeger in Europe told me, right? They had studied thousands of people who had a clinical diagnosis. And then when they checked them for microclots, they all had microclots, every single one of them. And so I went into it knowing that, and it's just been reconfirmed, right? Like just a couple of days ago, I met somebody and I was like, you know what, I don't think this is long COVID. And he did not have at least the level of microclots that you see in long COVID. So in long COVID, you see 3 out of 4, 3.5 out of 4, or 4 out of 4 microclots typically. This person had 2 out of 4, which is something that can be seen in other chronic conditions, not long COVID and vaccine injury. So my clinical intuition was that this may not be long COVID. Like maybe it is, but it seems like it's not. It seems like it's more of a different thing and like a chronic issue and something else. And all the tests seemed to confirm that, including the microclot test, which was just kind of like a baseline kind of like chronic illness level of microclots that you would expect to see. So the key thing here is that if you have a clear clinical picture, which means like a doctor looks at you and looks at your symptoms and looks at the timeline, is like, yeah, obviously long COVID or vaccine injury, right? Spike protein disease, pretty clearly that's what you have. That means you are in a hypercoagulable state and you have microclots, and you should be treating them relatively aggressively. And what does that mean? It means you start with aspirin, low dose, 81 milligram baby aspirin, enteric-coated version, nattokinase, serrapeptase, bromelain, quantum NAC, and then some other vitamins that are important for helping with blood thinning would be vitamin E, vitamin A, vitamin K2. They all have like anti-clotting or anti-spike protein effects as well, and vitamin D, curcumin, dandelion and black seed are in there as well. And then you should be taking quercetin, zinc, and a few others. So there's kind of like a combo kind of stack, which you can find at my go-to stack, which is named because you can stack the supplements on top of each other without any, without any overlap, right? So you're just getting what you need. And like most of them don't even have any fillers. I mean, it's just like I packed everything in there, trying to like take up as much space as possible to get all the synergistic things into one capsule. And everything, just what you need and nothing that you don't, and you can combine them. So you've got immunity vitamins that has vitamin D, C, zinc, quercetin, bromelain, and K2, and then you have immunity herbals that has curcumin, dandelion, black seed. That's another one. And then you have a resveratrol supplement for autophagy, and then you have protease inhibitors, which has 2 herbs that have these super strong antiviral effects, and then you have a new supplement that we're creating, we're about to roll out soon, that has quantum NAC and nattokinase and a couple of other vitamins in it that I think will be just like a game changer, total game changer for people. Like right now, I just recommend you go and get quantum NAC separately and go and buy nattokinase separately, but we're going to put it into one capsule, and it'll be a lot cheaper to just buy that one capsule as a combination. And the quantum NAC seems to actually improve the way other supplements work as well, somehow. I'm not really clear on why, but it's called quantum for a reason, and it sounds like ridiculous pseudoscience, but it's not. They've done the tests on this thing. It definitely works differently in people's body than regular NAC, but it's just NAC powder, and you can't tell the difference like by looking at it from regular NAC powder. But they've taken it and they've put it through a process that's secret and proprietary, and they have changed it at a molecular, like at a subatomic level. So like it has some sort of different, like the quantum makeup of it has changed. So I don't know. I tried to push them and tried to figure out what they were doing, and the only thing it triggered in my mind was this memory of kind of the way MRI works, that it like orients the spin of all the electrons in your body in one direction, so they all start spinning in one way. So like all the electrons in your entire body, right? They start spinning in one way. So maybe they're doing something like that, like at an electron level or a proton level or something, right? At some subatomic level where they're changing something to make it like more uniform, and then somehow locking it into place so that it doesn't drift away from that later once it leaves the magnetic field or whatever. I don't know. Honestly, I'm just trying to make it up. Like, what have they done? I'm not sure. But whatever they did, I pressed them on it and they said that it persists. It's not just like, it was changed and then it just changes back. So it is basically put into a more ordered state than regular NAC. And that somehow has an effect on other supplements that are taken with it to improve their efficacy. But it certainly causes, the NAC to be a lot more effective at just what NAC usually does. So it makes the NAC far more effective at breaking down spike protein and disconnecting it from where it's attached to your body's receptors, and upregulating glutathione levels and breaking down clots. And so when they gave it, they saw that in the lab. They have the study results for that, and then they showed in human beings that when they take quantum NAC, they start to excrete spike protein into their urine. So their urine had no spike protein in it, and then their body starts to expel spike protein into the urine a week after they start on the quantum NAC. And it's just like throwing out the spike protein. And then Pierre Corey's group, they saw that, they tracked a few hundred people and reported this at the FLCCC conference, that the spike antibody level drops when you start taking quantum NAC also. So the spike antibody level is essentially your body is seeing the spike protein and it's creating antibodies to it, right? So when there's less spike protein around, your body is going to be less reactive to it and create less antibodies. So you'll see the antibody level drop, and that's what happens as your body starts to expel spike protein, the antibody level drops sometimes precipitously. And, like with everything, not every single person benefits, but when it works like $1 million. It works really well. And, Pierre Corey's on the record saying this. There's a video of him saying this at zerospike.org. Tina Piers is on the record talking about it. Pierre Corey's partner, Scott Marsland, is on the record talking about it at the FLCCC conference in Dallas. And I've seen it also with patients. So those are the things that I'm recommending. So Lisa says, can we test for glyphosate in our bodies? Yeah, we are now testing for glyphosate. We get it from Great Plains Labs, so we send people to Great Plains Labs to test glyphosate, and there's probably other places that do it as well. And I think it's important, if you listen to the interview that I did with, what's her name? Dr. Stephanie Seneff from MIT at Long COVID Reset Summit. So we have a new summit, Long COVID Reset 2023 Summit. Julia, please put up a link if we have a direct link for that. Right now, we're kind of in between transitioning from the 2022 summit to the 2023 summit. So if you go to longcovidreset.com, you might see the 2022 summit, you might see the 2023 summit, but hopefully we have a direct link to the 2023 summit for people who are watching. So that summit is live now. And Julie, you'll have to remind me if Stephanie Seneff I think she's in that summit. And if not, then she's, we're going to be releasing her. Yeah, so so she's not in the summit. So she's going to be one of the interviews that we're releasing soon. So let's when are we posting that? It's going to be in a couple of weeks. Her interview is going to go live. So anyway, I highly recommend reading her book. She has a book on pesticides and really interesting read. And she's been studying this stuff for 20 or more years. And she's herself convinced, and quite convincing. She can convince you as well when you listen to her and read her book. She thinks that glyphosate, which is the most common pesticide, is probably the key thing that is leading people to becoming sick, and even from COVID, right? Like, she thinks that if you don't have glyphosate in your body, you're not susceptible to the problems that people get from poor eating habits or lack of exercise, or or spike protein. And you'll find a lot of people who like see everything through one lens, right? So she sees everything through the glyphosate lens, and so I'm not convinced that that's the case, but it is, like, the evidence is quite alarming, and the timelines are also quite alarming, right? Like, as the glyphosate levels have gone up, the chronic disease rates have gone up in lockstep, right? So it's one of those things that it could be glyphosate, and for a particular person, their whole issue could just be glyphosate. If they get rid of the glyphosate, maybe they can tolerate everything else. So, like, one of her points was that, like, your ancestors, they used to smoke and drink and not exercise and do whatever, right? And they didn't get sick, and they didn't, they lived to 95 and 100, and they didn't have diabetes and obesity and all this stuff, right? Like, they were able to put up with, suboptimal lifestyles without, the things that we end up with, all these chronic issues and conditions. And so you'll hear other people like Jack Kruse talking about, oh, it's all about light, right? It's all about light and, deuterium-rich water and, magnetism and maybe grounding or something, right? So, and he has, he's quite convincing too when you listen to him. So maybe it is all about, like, light and blue light, indoor lighting, and light at night, and, the fact that we're not out in the sun all day long, in touch with all the different wavelengths of light that are in natural sunlight. So I think that the truth is probably, more complicated, where, like, there's not a simple answer, but for some people, the answer is simple. So when you hit on the thing that's, like, the biggest thing for you, all of a sudden everything changes, right? It's like the anvil that broke the camel's back, right? And not the straw that broke the camel's back. There's a lot of straws on your back, that are weighing you down, all these little things that you're doing wrong. But then there's usually this one big thing that, like, finishes you off, right? That anvil that breaks your back. And for some people, it's just a spike protein. For some people, it might be glyphosate. For some people, it might be, natural sunlight, that they need a lot more of, which also helps a lot with sleep. And for some people, it might be something else. So, but what I do know is that people, they don't have, like, an ivermectin deficiency, right? You don't have but you can have a glyphosate excess, right? So glyphosate can be you can have a toxicity of glyphosate, certainly. So, my approach to healing any disease is essentially remove all the toxins and harmful things, right? Harmful beliefs, limiting beliefs, negative emotions, all those things, plus physical toxins, glyphosate, spike protein, pesticides, other pesticides, heavy metals, all of that. And give yourself everything you need in the right quantities, right? Let's say you need a certain amount of sleep optimally, right? You need a certain amount of food, you need a certain amount of exercise, you need a certain amount of relaxation, you need a certain amount of stress, also good stress, right? You need a certain amount of everything. It's light, and you need a certain lack of, at certain times you need no light, and at certain times you need a lot of light. So that's the main approach. That's what heals, and it's not like, it's not me that's healing, right? Like, I'm not the healer. Your body is just healing naturally. Like, God's the healer, right? So God is the healer, and you're just kind of like removing the impediments to the thing that's actually happening automatically already. You are constantly being healed, but there's something that's, like, holding you back from, getting to, all the way healed. And so if you stop, like, pulling or, like, pushing the, the beach ball under water, it'll just, like, fly up into the air, right? It'll soar. So that's what you need. You need to stop, like, holding the beach, struggling to hold the beach ball down underneath the pool, and you let it go, and it's just going to fly up into the air. And that's what your body wants to do. It wants to just fly into health, right? And you just got to remove the thing that's holding it back. So for glyphosate, probably everyone should just do this as a baseline, because we're all exposed to it. Even organic food has pesticides, so not glyphosate, but it has quote unquote natural pesticides. So sauerkraut, there was a study that Senef talks about where they gave cows, they checked their glyphosate levels in their blood, and then they gave them, I think it was sauerkraut and bentonite clay and fulvic and humic acid, and those three things. So fulvic and humic acid are shilajit, which actually is one of the secret ingredients, don't tell anyone, for my new supplement, the Spike Buster supplement. So it's going to have fulvic acid and humic acid, I think 75 milligrams each. So like a concentrated extract from shilajit with fulvic and humic acid. So that's great for balancing a lot of things, right? So like the shilajit helps with, does something similar to what Namenda does, which is a medication to kind of like inhibit glutamate in the brain, which is a big problem for people with spike toxicity. So I would take that with ashwagandha, which helps to boost GABA, which is kind of the competing neurotransmitter. So from shilajit or from other places, plus sauerkraut daily, plus I would also add chlorella. That's also a great detox supplement. And the fulvic and humic acid also, I was really surprised to learn that it, so it not only detoxes pesticides, but it also detoxes heavy metals and even graphene oxide. So taking those things has been shown to decrease pesticide levels in cows, and same for human beings. So people have their glyphosate and then gone on these kind of detox protocols and then retested and seen that they have gotten rid of the glyphosate or gotten it down very, very low. So I think that's important. EK says, how is organizing pneumonia treated after COVID? So essentially, typically speaking, we're going to be treating it with steroids, but there's other things that you could try. You could try nebulized hydrogen peroxide and nebulized iodine and even nebulized heparin. So that's what I would look into. All right, everyone. So we're a little bit over the time that I said. We're about 25 minutes. We're going to transfer over to pro.longcovidreset.com. So pro.longcovidreset.com is our platform we've created to distribute our content, right? So please go over there and join. It's free for the first month. And if you can't afford it after that, just let us know and we'll knock off the fee and you can just get it free forever. So go over there and hopefully we'll see you there. And it's not just my live weekly Q&As, which I think are great, and hopefully you guys think they're great too, which I love to do. But it's also Michelle Harvey. She talks about lifestyle. She's a health coach that works with us, and she's spearheading the Phoenix protocol for people to recover from long COVID, which was basically, developed by me and her in tandem based on my experience, recovering from long COVID using lifestyle measures. So she takes people through a 2-month-long course. And so if you do sign up for Pro, you get access to that course as well as access to her weekly, new live stream content regarding that course. And then you also get access to Bethany Stewart's weekly live streams on weight loss and body recomposition protocols. And so we created a protocol specifically called Lean Vitality based on, again, my own experience losing 45 pounds pandemic weight gain. And I think spike protein weight gain and stress weight gain and lack of sleep, weight gain. So she's helped me develop a course called Lean Vitality, and we also have weekly live streams on the Pro platform on those subjects of kind of how get stronger and leaner and healthier. And then we have a functional medicine doctor, Dr. Ryan Shelton, who does a weekly live stream on functional medicine topics as they relate to, long COVID and vaccine injuries primarily, and other conditions that are kind of related, like mold toxicity and Lyme disease and stuff like that. And we have weekly interviews that I do with a bunch of amazing people from all over the world. So we've posted a couple of them. We just launched this platform recently, a few weeks ago. And so we've started to post those weekly interviews, and Stephanie Seneff will be one of those interviews coming up. So there's a lot of content there. And then you also get access, so that's all exclusive content. And then you also get access to the Lean Vitality course. That's just part of the subscription, and you get access to the Phoenix protocol course as well. And you also get access to all of our summits. So you get ongoing access to the longcovidreset.com 2022 and 2023 summit, and the future summits. You'll have access to those as they become available. So, and you also get discounts. You get discounts at my GoToDoc and my GoToStack, I think 20% discounts. So there's a ton of amazing stuff, and we've tried to put it all into one place for people to benefit. All right, so without further ado, hopefully I will see you on the other side.